UFC Fight Night Yan versus Figueiredo. This card was an absolute certified hood classic. Banger from top to bottom with only one stinker, and that being the co-main event. It's a damn shame this card barely got promoted at all, and it was on at 2 a.m. in the morning because I was half dead for the whole card. But I powered through and enjoyed it thoroughly. So, let's talk about the card. Peter Yan versus Deiveson Figueiredo. This was a great fight, even if it was somewhat one-sided. Figgy kept Yan honest with the power that he brought. And my God, did he look powerful at times, even if he did only land 53 strikes throughout the fight. I went with Deiveson. I figured he'd just find a way to get it done, but he came up short. Yan showed out tonight. He came as an upgraded version of himself, and goddamn, I was impressed. His combos, his ability to go first and last, and his kicks, man, they were so fast. His lead kick, I think it was in southpaw, was just blisteringly fast. Even when Deiveson would block it, it still obviously carried a ton of power. I'm just thoroughly impressed with Yan's performance. I don't know if he beats Suga convincingly or beats Merab at all, but he definitely will have a better chance now. He has obviously worked on shit in the gym, and I'm excited to see him against whoever is next. I personally think it should be Suga and let Umar have his chance against Merab, because I feel like throwing Suga against another wrestler is just, I don't know, almost cruel in a way. Well, Umar's not necessarily a wrestler. He's not like fucking Merab, but still. I would like to see Yan and Suga go back at it again. It was such a fun fight the first time. It's just a striker's delight. Make it 5 rounds this time. I think that's what everyone would want. It's like regardless, either way, we get a striker that wins that has a better chance going against Merab. Yan's takedown defense didn't look the greatest. I mean, he did defend some really good takedowns from Deiveson, but they're different types than how Merab does. But the problem with Merab is, that he shoots a million a minute. So I guess the whole thing is can Peter not be held up against the cage or taken down 10 different times in a round from Merab? Hopefully he can, because I do think he can get past Suga if they fight again, honestly. He just has such a better ability to mix it up. I think he's a little more durable than Sean. But regardless, I'll stop talking about fucking potential matchups and talk about this one. Man, he outclassed Figgy. Jesus Christ. So much faster. I still can't get over that. Figgy did seem to drop him a couple of times. It didn't show, like the statistics not there on the UFC site, but I thought I remember him dropping him. A lot of people said it was a slip, that he was already going to fall, but I don't believe that. I think Figgy did drop him. I do not understand how the fuck Figueiredo has that much goddamn power. It seems he can drop anyone that he fights. As crazy of a pace as this was, Figgy did definitely slow down. Yan was overwhelming him. He was throwing so much, so fast, always a step ahead. And once he figured out that his uppercuts were just money, he almost got to the point of just spamming them on Figueiredo. Figueiredo just could not figure out how to block them and ate some absolute bombs. He went down once, but he was shooting a takedown, got caught with an uppercut, and sat on his ass. But even still, he took some absolute fucking A-bombs from Yan. Shit that would easily fell Merab, maybe Umar too. Talking about Figueiredo's chin, Yan has just as good of a chin, because as we know, Deiveson has crazy power. As I mentioned a second ago, he first guy to really drop Cheeto. And also, Yan has an iron core. Deiveson was landing some body shots that would have took a horse out, man. It was fucking wild. These guys are so durable, so explosive. I cannot get over this fight. It was incredible. I'm very excited to see where they go next. Yan Xiaonan versus Tabitha Ricci. I feel like an absolute dumbass retard, but let me explain myself. I was going to pick Yan Xiaonan, and then I was like, well, I feel like I'm going to pick her, and then Ricci's just going to hold her up against the cage or camp half guard to a near robbery decision. And I kind of wrestled with that for a little bit, and then I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll just choose Ricci, because I feel like there's going to be some dumbass fluke upset. But that's not what happened. Ricci had nothing for Yan Xiaonan, and Yan just kind of played it safe on the feet and just outboxed her at range. And that was the entire fight. I honestly think Yan Xiaonan could have put Tabitha away pretty much at any point if she really wanted to. But it seemed like she did almost have some PTSD from getting beat by Weili. Really didn't want to get taken down. And so she just picked her apart at range. Looking at him after the fight's over, getting announced, it's not like Tabitha's really busted up or not. She just jabbed her, threw some crosses, kicked her in the legs, jabbed the body. That was the whole fight. For a masterclass, it was pretty boring. Song Kanan versus Muslim Salikov. I went with Salikov by third round finish, but he got it done in round 1 by a spinning wheel kick. Very nice finish. I don't know why Song Kanan kept the fight at kicking range when that's just playing into Salikov's game, but that's what he chose to do, and he paid for it. He did stumble Muslim Salikov at a point and immediately shot for a takedown. I don't know why he did that. It kind of had the same energy as the Gastelum Izzy takedown. But yeah, Song Kanan was not fighting smart at all during that whole fight. Good finish from Muslim Salikov, though. Kong Wang versus Gabriela Fernandez. I went with Kong Wang by a second round finish, but it ended up Gabriela getting a second round finish. And man, Kong Wang looked great in round 1, but she got caught with a fucking head kick. Kong Wang was landing a lot of really good body shots. She was working the body the entire first round, and as soon as the second round started, she was like holding Gabriela's forearms and like pulling her head down and slamming body shots into her. Good kicks, good punches, educated counters. Like, I can't even really give Gabriela too much in round 1. She landed a few good straights and whatnot, but she just did not look that good. And round 2, man, she just got the perfect head kick. When she started to throw it, Kong Wang let her hand go down. I don't know if she was... It almost looked like she thought it was a leg kick and was going to catch it, but it hit her right on the jaw. Gabriela's foot kind of got caught on her shoulder, and so she stumbled, and Wang went to the ground and then popped back up. And the biggest mistake Wang made was that she immediately started throwing after she got back up from being dropped from the head kick. And then she got caught with it was either a hook or a straight, dropped her back down. Gabriela followed on top and found the sub. If Wang would have separated after she got back up from the initial knockdown, she might have had time and a chance to recover. But I do think that was her biggest mistake, is just standing in the pocket and swinging after getting dropped. Definitely something she needs to work on. But other than that, she looked really good. A good almost comeback win for Gabriela. The fight was trending to get away from her. So yeah, good win for Gabriela. I hope Kong comes back better than she was in this fight. Volkan Oezdemir versus Carlos Ulberg. I'd went with Carlos Ulberg by a third round finish, and he gets it done by unanimous decision. He looked like I thought he would, just a step ahead in the technique on the feet. He was faster, beating Oezdemir to the punch, and also countering. His footwork was incredible, but he didn't really sit down on a lot of his punches. I felt like he could have gotten Oezdemir out of there if he would have really went for the finish at any point, but he kind of just styled on him. And the numbers are very even in the striking. It's just Oezdemir wasn't landing as cleanly, and the shots weren't nearly as damaging as Ulberg's were. Oezdemir did land a lot of good leg kicks. Probably his best strikes, honestly. They just paled in comparison to all that Ulberg was doing. Even after the end of round 1, Oezdemir's face was torn up, red as a tomato, cut on the nose. He was causing a lot of damage with his punches. Probably Carlos's best performance to date. Definitely his toughest opponent, and he put on a good show. He definitely will need to continuously improve to crack the top 5. Yuri, Jamal, obviously Pahea will definitely be able to give him some problems, because I feel like any of those 3 that I just mentioned would be able to put Oezdemir out probably round 2 in that fight if they were having as good of a performance as Carlos was having. Nonetheless, it was a really good fight. Zhang Minyang versus Ozzy Diaz. I went with Zhang by second round finish, and he gets it done in the first round by TKO. He was landing some really good leg kicks, pretty debilitating, and some nice side kicks. and then eventually he stepped in with a lead elbow and laid Ozzy Diaz out, followed up with some ground and pound. Took very little damage. He should get back in there soon, sometime at the beginning of next year. And there's not much else to say about the fight. It was very short and just a quick, nice finish. Beijing Jaliasi versus Su Young Yu. I went with Beijing, but Su Young Yu got it done by decision. And he pretty much outclassed Beijing throughout the whole fight. He was better on the feet. His boxing was crisper, a little more educated, landing really good leg kicks. Had a massive mound of welts on Beijing's left leg. And he was clearly a step ahead in the grappling, too. Never really came close to finishing the fight. Neither guy did. It was clear that Su Young Yu was winning the fight pretty much every round. One thing of note is both of these guys were absolutely shredded to the fucking gills. And they were both fast as hell, too. Other than that, though, not much to comment on. At this point, I'm like damn near asleep. I'm like using all of my focus to watch this shit. But it was an alright fight. Wasn't nothing to write home about. Kiru Sahota versus Dong-Hun Choi. I went with Dong-Hun Choi by decision, but he got a very early KO in round 1. For the first minute and a half, there was absolutely nothing going on besides Dong-Hun Choi just kind of skirting around on his bicycle. And Kiru Sahota was just throwing some of the worst striking I've ever seen. He threw 26 strikes and landed 5 of them, just for a reference. He looked astonishingly bad. And eventually, Dong-Hun started stepping in, really laying down on his shots. And he just was dipping and ducking, throwing hooks and overhands. And eventually they caught Kiru, and he went out cold. Not much to say about the fight other than that. Dong-Hun Choi should get back in there very early next year. He took no damage at all. Shi Ming versus Feng Zhaocan. I'd went with Feng Zhaocan, I think by decision. But Shi Ming gets it done by a fucking nasty, perfectly placed head kick in round 3. She kind of faked low and then went up high. Her shin went from the chin to the fucking ball of the jaw. Just absolutely slept her out cold and followed up with some pretty vicious ground and pound. The best finish so far on the card. And leading up to that, it wasn't the most exciting fight. It was pretty back and forth and kind of low volume. There was a cool reversal by Feng in round 1 after she got taken down by Shi Ming. But other than that, not much happened up until that insane head kick. One thing I did want to note is I swear when they were announcing, or when Joe Martinez was announcing Feng Zhaocan, he said that she was 5'2", and there's no fucking way. I looked at her stats on ESPN and she's 5'7", because when they were standing across from each other, you could easily tell Feng was pretty fucking big for the weight class. She's thin, but she's got a crazy frame for the weight class. But I guess we won't have to worry about that because she probably, I imagine, won't be in the UFC. I don't know how the whole road to the UFC thing works. It's the first time I've ever seen a finale of it. But yeah, impressive, crazy finish by Shi Ming. Absolutely destroyed Feng. Namjirgal Tumendimbarrel versus Carlos Hernandez. I'd went with Namjirgal. I don't remember what by, but he did not get it done. Carlos Hernandez won by split decision, and this was a pretty shit fight. Nearly put my ass to sleep. Namjirgal landed 31 strikes. Carlos Hernandez landed 43. Not a very active fight. Namjirgal has terrible IQ. He is not very smart in the cage. For a lack of a better word, he has a very unk fight style where it looks like he should have a pot belly when he's fighting. For the first round, he didn't look zoned in, didn't look dialed in the first round. Was really slow at the start. Just had his hands down, wasn't prepared for takedowns. Just looked bad. Did not look good. And Carlos Hernandez pretty much looked his usual meh self. I don't know why. I do not like Carlos Hernandez. I don't like watching him fight. I'm almost always rooting for him to lose. And I kind of was here. But seeing how bad Namjirgal fought, I'm fine with him losing. He doesn't deserve to win with his incredibly bad IQ. Came close to finishing the fight in the first and third round. I can't even remember. But he just fucked up the finish. Kept going for a ground and pound or going for like rear nakeds and shit. And every time he'd like go for ground and pound and realize he wouldn't be able to get it, he tried to separate, and then Carlos would just be on him like white on rice. So yeah, not a great game plan from Namdragal. First meh fight on the card. Loney Kavanaugh versus Jose Ochoa. I'd went with Loney Kavanaugh by finish, but he gets it done by decision. This was another really good fight, a very technical fight. Both guys impressed me quite a lot. Jose more, because I didn't know about him. And speaking of Jose, he looked fucking huge at flyweight. I mean, Loney looks big himself because he's just kind of shredded, like a even minier version of Michael Chandler. It kind of fights like a Chandler with IQ. But no, Jose looked big as fuck at flyweight. Like even just at 5'7", he looked huge. He's not very thick, you know, he's somewhat thin, but goddamn. And his frame definitely had a big impact on this fight. Loney was struggling to close the distance. Both guys were using kicks. They were very heavy on a kick game plan, or resorting to a kick game plan. Loney, because he couldn't close the distance, dealing with the height and reach advantage of Jose. And then Jose using it because he couldn't cut off Loney, because Loney's footwork was really good throughout the fight. Some people say he was being skittish and just trying to avoid damage and shit, or like avoid a real fight, but I think it was just fucking really, really technical. It was just very impressive throughout. And I think both of these guys have the potential easily to crack the top 10 in the future. They're very young, and both guys were debuting tonight, and just seeing such a high-level fight in a debut for two young fighters just renews my love of flyweight, man. God damn it, put some faith in me. This fight kind of gives me the same kind of feeling as like an early, like Islam and Arman's first fight, where after seeing that, everyone pretty much thought, oh, we'll see them rematch sometime in the future. And I could see the same thing happening here, like both of them fighting for like a number one contender spot or something, because they looked incredible. Even though it wasn't as action-packed as Zhao Long and Quan Lee, it was much more technical. Jose was pretty close at one point in round 2 to finishing Loney. He had landed, I think it was a body shot, and you could tell it hurt Kavanaugh. Not Kavanaugh. You could tell it hurt Loney, and Jose kind of went for the kill. And eventually he found the back and went for a rear naked. And he did seem to have it locked up at the last 10 seconds. But Loney held out and got to round 3. And pretty convincingly won round 3. He was just landing the bigger shots there. And obviously for flyweight, they both looked really fast. Like incredibly fast. Super impressed by both of their performances. And I'm quite excited to see either guy fight again. Zhao Long versus Quan Lee. I'd went with Zhao Long, I think, by round 2 finish, and he gets it done by a round 3 TKO. This is a fucking great fight. Very active. Both guys were fast, snappy, had a lot of pop in their punches. Just fun from bell to bell. Round 1, I was kind of nervous for my pick. Quan Lee looked really educated with his hands. His counters and combos were fucking slick as fuck. He didn't seem to have as much pop in his punches as Zhao Long, but he was a little faster. But he wasn't as willing to throw down as Zhao Long. Zhao Long came to fucking scrap. Even when he would get clocked heavily, he would just point to the ground and just get right back in there throwing bombs. He was landing really good leg kicks too. Fuck, man, I'm trying to think of more shit to say about it, but you know, it's fucking 3 in the morning. Great fight. Really fun. Definitely worth rewatching. Yeah, it's sad for Quan Lee to get knocked out. He looked really good. I think he is up there in age, though. I think he's like 31, 33, which isn't the greatest at bantamweight. But who knows? Maybe he can have a decent career. Zhao Long, though, he looked really good. Aside from the fact he did get hit a bunch, but I can't really hold that against him too much because Quan Lee's hands were so fucking fast. And inside of round 1, he looked great. He did slow down quite a lot after round one. Like, gradually, he slowed down more and more. I think that was one of his biggest downfalls, definitely by round three, was that he just couldn't keep up with the pace Zhao Long was putting on him. Because even when he would crack Zhao Long, he would start to back off. And, Zhao Long would point to the ground and be like, nope, let's keep going. And he'd just keep pushing the pace. He threw fucking 205 strikes, almost 3 rounds, which is just a crazy pace. Especially for how hard they were throwing throughout the fight. But yeah, great fight. Excited to see Zhao Long back in there again. Maheshate versus Nicholas Mata. I'd went with Maheshate by second round finish. I think I might be wrong on that. And Nicholas Mata got it done by unanimous 30-27 decision. This was a pretty good fight to start off a late night card. Definitely got the energy going. If it would have been a real boring fight, probably would have fell asleep in my chair. Things I immediately took away from the fight are, holy shit, Maheshate does not move his head at all. Not once in this fight did he move his head. He blocked a lot of shots, but they were still landing heavy on the guard and just slipping through it at times. And neither guy really went to the body either. There was a lot of knockdowns, a lot of near finishes. Mata's boxing looked good. He was landing really strong leg kicks too. Like, he landed stats say he landed 10 of 10 leg kicks, but he kind of abandoned them like middle way through round 2, and you could see that there was a red welt on Maheshate's left leg, but he just didn't keep going to it, and that kind of disappointed me. And yet he was very predictable in his boxing. He kept using like the same combos over and over, wasn't mixing it up well at all, hardly ever went to the body, but he was doing really good with the boxing. That was what kept knocking Maheshate down. And Maheshate himself, he was quite diverse on the feet, giving a lot of different looks to Nicholas, and he was doing really well with knees in the clinch. He knocked Mata down early in round 1, and for the most part of it, he had that round stolen until Mata knocked him down late in round 1 with some punch and a boxing combo, knocked him down, and he just clearly did more damage and had a more effective knockdown, stole that round for himself. I could see people giving Maheshate round 2. I was kind of not paying attention for the middle portion of round 2, but round 3 and 1 definitely were Mata's rounds. He was much closer to finishing the fight. He almost had he damn near had him out of there in round 3, but went for a finish on the ground, threw a lot of shots, went for a rear naked and didn't get it, and you could definitely tell he was a little gassed after that. But overall, a pretty good fight. Decent performances from both guys, nothing stellar. Both have a lot to work on.